of the key things when you're in side control is I always want something blocking the hip. So right now my hand is in his hip, so my other arm, it can be over his shoulder here. My legs can both be back, they can both be up, one back. It doesn't really matter when I'm in this side control as much. Lots of times I use this one if I need to like really settle and I can stretch both my legs back to make my weight go out farther, to make myself a little heavier. But I've noticed I am blocking his hip, so if he starts moving his hip, I can follow and stay sensitive with my hand. So I'm not putting my hand on the mat next to his hip, it's on his actual body, because I want to be sensitive to his movements. To switch to the up, so this is traditional side control. To switch to 100 kilos, I need to make this one, I'm going to be using my knee to block his hip instead. So I'm going to replace my hand with my knee, and then I can move my hand to scoop his arm. My other hand scoops his head, and I get a gable grip and hug him tight here. And then to go back, I unscoop his head, scoop his shoulder, unscoop under his arm, come back to his hip, and I can move my leg if I want. So I'm going to go back, under his arm, under his head, gable grip. The whole time, notice I'm keeping my hips low. Even if I'm switching how my knees are throughout this, my hips are constantly low. At no point am I switching and going like that. Because as soon as I go like that, he brings his knee in or he rolls me over. Not good things. So we're here, and I've got my gable grip. I'm going to unscoop, come to his shoulder here, unscoop, block the hip, and then if I have my leg back, come in to block the hip with my knee, move my hand, move my hand. The big important thing here, notice at all times I have something blocking on this side of his body and on this side of his body at all times. I'm never just like letting go of everything to move. I want to always be, when I take something out, I'm going to replace something else, and then I can bring my legs back. If I want to switch, I have to bring a knee in to block his hip, come to here, come to here. So it is the step over to mount. So first thing I'm gonna do is switch my hips so right now my hand is blocking his hip. I'm gonna switch so that my head side leg is blocking his hip. So I'm gonna switch my hips. I'm just bringing my knee underneath and I'm putting it in his hip here. So now this hand is free and I'm gonna reach across and just tap his knee. This doesn't have to be like any sort of power move trying to like pull his leg towards me. I'm really just tapping it to see, like I can visually see where it is right now, and I know where my hand is even with my eyes shut to be able to step over, because I want to be able to step over his legs. I know where my hand is even if I'm not looking, so I can easily step over. Doing this blindly is gonna be harder because like I can't quite see and where it is. I could do it if I like here, but this just gives me a good cue to just quickly step over. When I do this, notice my weight is still on the same side. I haven't like thrown my whole body over. I'm just stepping. And I'm gonna take my heel and just hook it in his hip and pull myself to the top, and then let my arms come out wide. I don't want to just hang out here because then he's going to easily be able to roll me over. So we're here, switching my hips. I'm just going to tap and step. And then from here, I'm doing a heel pull to bring my knee over. What I do not want to see is you trying to throw your knee, like leading with your knee, where you come like that. I'm throwing a lot of weight over, and he can just use that momentum and keep me moving that way very easily. It's a very easy way to get rolled over. So, from this angle, from here, I'm going to switch my hips, tap, and step over. And I usually stomp my foot as a good cue that I'm leading with my foot. And then heel pull, bring my knee over, and let my arms come wide so that he won't immediately just bridge me over. And I like to keep my feet tight to his butt. That same spot where I was putting my hand on side control, I'm putting my heels there. And I keep my knees wide when I do this. You don't want to keep your feet wide and your knees wide. Big window for hip escape. So if you're gonna keep your knees wide like that, where it makes it harder for him to roll you over, feet have to be glued to his butt. Getting to mount from here, we're gonna have to do something a little bit different. One of the first things I wanna do is get my knee in. It's gonna be a lot easier to do this from both knees in rather than this one back. So I'm gonna bring in my head side knee if it's not already. And my hip side knee, it's gonna stay tight to his hip, and it's just gonna trace up his hip, and I'm just gonna drive across with my knee until my foot hooks his hip. And I'm gonna keep driving, I'm gonna keep my foot on this side of his hip, hooked onto it, but I'm still gonna keep driving with my knee and try to get it all the way to the mat. Notice that also turns his hip, that's fine. Some people, you might be able to get your knee to the mat without turning their hips. Sometimes you have to, it's just a size thing, your leg relative to their hips. Once I'm here, I'm gonna take my knee and kind of drive it down towards his knee. Again, I'm still keeping my foot in his hip. I'm just using this knee and just kind of sliding it down his thigh just a little bit. And notice that straightens his leg out just a little. That's gonna make it harder for him to catch my foot on this next part when I'm gonna do a windshield wiper motion with my foot and bring it to the mat. And then I'm gonna tuck both my feet in, and I'm gonna bring my arms out wider. And if I already have this arm, I'll usually try to keep underneath that elbow so I can work on isolating this arm. So from here, another thing I'll point out, shoulder pressure is an important part of this the whole time. As I'm doing this, I'm driving my shoulder into the side of his head and making him look away from me. And I'm gonna bring my knee over until my foot hooks. And then I'm gonna let my knee get to the mat. And again, I'm still driving with my shoulder. For this next part, as I'm pushing down with my knee, I'm also kind of pushing up with my shoulder to really stretch him out. So this should be pretty uncomfortable. Are you comfortable, Zed?
No.
Yeah, good. So now my foot that's in his hip, just gonna do a windshield wiper to the mat, and I'm going to then, as soon as my foot hits the mat, I'm gonna bring it in tight to his hip. So I'm here. So what I don't wanna do here, I don't wanna just be lazy with that and like come here, and now he has my foot. I'm still in an okay position, but now I have to work on getting my foot back, and that's annoying.
You can talk about like, how to deal with this frame.
Yeah. So yeah, from here, this frame can give you some trouble. If they're really making it where I can't get my hips low, that's gonna be the first thing I need to deal with. So if he's really framing and I can't drop my hip down, just all I'm gonna do here is just wiggle my hips to the mat. And that usually is gonna be, that's hard for them to like keep that frame. So if he's really trying to frame with that, just wiggle. And that gets that down. And then if I end up, like I just did, below his arm, bring my knee up, and I have his arm isolated, which is awesome. If his elbow still ends up on the inside, just a little more squished, what I like to do, let's rotate. My hip side knee, I'm just gonna do that same hip switch motion that we did for the step over, but on the other side. Drag it up his ribs to the top of his head. And get his arm here. And I can just scoop his head. Knee comes over top. Hook with the foot. Use my knee to push down. Notice how that he's right now he's kind of like folded in like a C shape like this. Notice how his body moves and straightens him out. And now this foot is going to windshield wiper to the mat real quick. And then come right in to block. And then I come here. And I like to try to keep this arm isolated. So instead of coming really wide where he can get that arm back, I'll keep it a little bit tighter to his head so that if he tries to bring that elbow back in, it's going to be hard. And then I can work on blocking it up to isolate it. From the knee drive pass, you have this arm already. We're going to use that. So I already have his arm isolated. I'm going to take this hand and grab his wrist. And I'm going to, this arm that's already under his arm, I'm going to reach through, grab my own wrist. And I'm going to hug everything in tight. One thing that's important for doing the Americana from mount is thinking about my own body alignment. So right now, if I am square on him and then go to do the Americana, my spine has to curve. That puts me at a worse balance point and a worse point like for body mechanics, just being able to leverage his arm. It also makes it where my own knee is in my way. If I'm here, it's going to be easier for him to be able to like roll me over because I don't have a good base. So what I want to do, the far knee is going to slide up into his armpit so it's higher up towards his shoulder. At the same time, my other knee, my other leg is going to drop down. So now I'm facing his shoulder. So my spine is now in alignment and I'm in a better position to do the Americana. So I'm here, I'm going to hug everything in nice and tight. So I don't want this to be like all 90-degree angles or bigger. I want it to be nice and tight as I can. And then I'm gonna lift his elbow up just a little bit and I'm gonna bring his fingers towards his hip. Just nice and slow. So we're here. Do my knee drive. I'm up to here. I'm keeping this arm isolated. I'm gonna reach around to get his wrist. And I'm gonna adjust my knees. My far knee goes up into his shoulder. My near knee is gonna drop down lower. Just remember, if you're trying to remember which way to turn, make it where you're facing the arm you're trying to lock. Don't try to turn away from it because that's really awkward. Face the arm you're trying to lock. Nice straight spine. So here, hug it in tight. Elbow lifts up just a little bit. And I'm gonna bring his fingers towards his hip. Nice and slow.
A couple things about retaining full mount and why I'm here. So usually when we start, Stephanie's elbow is going to be low, right? So they're not allowing me to progress forward. So my weight distribution, I'm obviously not on one side because Stephanie just bump and roll me. She's going to do that. I like to stay low, right? If I'm up here and Stephanie just bumps her hips up, I'm flying, right? But if I stay low and she does the same thing, right, I'm less mobile. That's what I want. So initially my hands will be out like feelers so that I can maintain my weight over Stephanie, all right? And then one thing about the feet is I don't like to grapevine, and what I mean by grapevining, it's like I'm weaving my legs through Stephanie's legs and I'm hipping in, and I'm kind of reducing her leg mobility. It's cool, but the problem is that where I'm being heavy is closer to Stephanie's hips. I want to be heavy closer to like Stephanie's chest and her upper body because she can shrimp, and that's where all of her movement's coming from, right? If I can avoid that problem, that's absolutely what I want, okay? So when you're, oh damn, cool. So when, so I get into full mount, Stephanie's obviously framing, right? I'm not gonna be worried about isolating any of her arms right now. I'm just trying to maintain my mount, all right? And a lot of times what I do is I threaten to choke, all right? So a lot of you guys, actually a majority of you guys have gis today, which is really good. So for you two guys, just make sure you train with someone that's got a gi on, cool? All right, so what I'm gonna do is we're gonna start working with the Ezekiel choke, all right? So initially I'm here, what I'm gonna do is I come in here and I'm actually gonna just bring one of my arms under Stephanie's head, and I'm basically gonna be pressing down with my shoulder on Stephanie's face. Stephanie obviously does not like this position, right? This is good for me, all right? So I'm here. What I'm gonna do is this hand that's through, I'm gonna have it face down, and I'm gonna bring my other hand, I'm gonna come meet it, and I'm gonna grab with 4 fingers my own sleeve, all right? This is a legal grip in jiu-jitsu if you're grabbing your own sleeve, but if I were to grab Stephanie's sleeve like this, or like this, it's illegal. And the reason for that is because Stephanie's obviously controlling her own appendages, which means there's a greater chance for me breaking my fingers, which is actually how a lot of people end up breaking their fingers. But if I'm doing it to myself, it's okay because I'm obviously controlling that grip. Right, so I'm here, I start here, I have good shoulder pressure, all right? And I'm taking my 4 fingers and I'm just finding my own sleeve, all right? Now, this next part is I like to sometimes, I don't usually make a fist, but I'll like use my like knuckles, that's the word, knuckles, and I'm gonna basically drag them across Stephanie's like, and I'm trying to get underneath Stephanie's chin, all right? And what I'm actually trying to do is I'm trying to grab my own like the sleeve of my bicep. I just like doing that. Just if I'm in the gi. For no gi, there's a different variation. So I'm here, right? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm coming in this way, and the point where I make my attachment with my sleeve on this hand, I'm shifting it that way so it's directly on Stephanie's neck. Because I'm trying to choke, what it does is if it's a blood choke, it's addressing the carotid arteries, and I'm trying to reduce the blood flow to Stephanie's brain so I can obviously choke her, right? I'm here, bring this through, and I'm here. Now basically what I do is I just bring my forearms together like a vice. Boom. All right? It's a pretty brutal choke. It kind of sucks because it's right on the Adam's apple. But if you're doing it properly, like it is a blood choke, okay? So yeah, we'll just do that one. And then after that, I can show the no-gi variation. It's almost the same. But once again, I'm establishing full mount, coming down, one arm under Stephanie's head. I'm staying low. I grab 4 fingers in, grab it in my own sleeve, all right? This hand, make kind of like a mini fist, and I'm going underneath Stephanie's chin, all right? If Stephanie's chin is down, that's okay. I'm just gonna dig, all right? I'm gonna be real fucking rude about this, right? This is jiu-jitsu, okay? Sometimes it sucks. Make sure to bring this attachment closer to the side of her head so I have more mobility, and this is actually a blood choke. And then this hand, I like to grab the bicep, like the sleeve, the gi by the bicep, but if you want to go lower, you can absolutely go lower, and then just twist your forearms and bring them together. So without Stephanie, it's here, and I can twist my forearms so that the blades are closer, and I just bring them in, all right? Does anybody need to see that again? All right, I'll show Trevor. So, once again, establishing full mount. I'll just cup the back of the head, bring my arm under, good shoulder pressure, 4 fingers in my sleeve, bring the sleeve to the side of Stephanie's neck. Then I go fishing for my other grip underneath Stephanie's chin. All right, grab my own lapel or my own gi claw, twist, bring my forearms in, and then I just put the pressure in like that. All right. Any questions? No? All right, let's give it a shot, guys. 1, 2, 3. And the point was to try to get, because I've just established full mount, right? The point is to get Stephanie to loosen up her elbows so I can move up, right? Because this mount's all right, but if I can get up, this mount is way better. But how do I get here, right? So obviously, the first option is to start choking Stephanie. So I'm here, and I'm choking, and she's moving her elbows, right? So as she's moving her elbows to defend the choke, I'm scooting my legs up. And I'm not scooting them like this, I'm staying stupid tight. I'm a vice, okay? And as I'm doing that, the more further up I get underneath Stephanie's elbows, the easier it is for me to eventually move further, higher, and up. So, again, I'm here, I got this choke, I'm messing with this choke, I'm getting her to move, and as she's moving, I'm scooting my hips up, and my knees are staying tight, okay? So, I really want to cover S-mount, but Alex is gonna do that Tuesday. So we're gonna do something instead. So what I'm gonna do is I'm here, and I have slowly but surely isolated Stephanie's arms, all right? So what I'm actually gonna do is I wanna just hold on to one. I'm gonna isolate one. I'm gonna take my hand, make a C, and I'm gonna just push it by the tricep. And actually this is kind of cool because I'm actually gonna be moving up and then back down, all right? So I'm here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep this up, and I'm gonna use my head and my neck to isolate the arm even further. So I'm gonna get my head on the outside and underneath her tricep, all right? So I'm here. I've isolated this arm. This is really good. So I come here, this hand on the bottom is gonna stay facing down, all right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna gable grip it for now, all right? And when I'm ready, I'm just gonna scoot over. So I'll pop my hips up a little bit. This is me, cuts over, and I'm coming here to Stephanie's side, all right? Right now, my hips are switched. I've seen a lot of people finish this by switching their hips. I like to just keep it pretty standard because I'm trying to get super low, all right? So I'm here, this hand facing down, this one is facing up, and I'll actually, just because I like to, I'll actually go ahead and get that figure 4 grip, and I'm staying low, and I'm just squeezing. All right, this is called, I call it an arm in, head in arm triangle? Do you know what you call this?
Head arm triangle.
Head arm triangle, guys. Yeah. Okay. So, once again, there's a lot more quicker. So I'm here, I'm setting up that Ezekiel so I can get Stephanie to move her arms up. So I'm here, she's moving her arms, I move my hips up, my knees stay tight, all right? Once I feel like I'm underneath, my upper thigh is underneath her tricep, I'm gonna take one arm, make a C, grab the tricep, push it up a little bit. If I need to, I can also use my chest. A lot of times I want to use my arm, I'll just use my chest. And then I'll use the hand to adjust the position. So I'm here, boom. Get my head and my neck to the side, to the outside of Stephanie's arm. I'm here, I'll figure 4. Or I'll use the gable grip, whatever helps me stay mobile because I'm about to pop my hips up and cut my knee. So I pop up a little bit and get my knee through, all right? I don't want to get too high up because Stephanie's gonna regard and that would suck, all right? So I'm here. Figure 4, I can switch my hips, whatever you guys want. I like to keep them standard, just here, and then I'm gonna sprawl, and I'm just gonna squeeze. Does anybody want to see it again? Yes. So I'm here, I'm threatening the Ezekiel choke, my arms in, shoulder down, I'm working this, right? And she starts to move her arms. As I feel her move her arms, I'm gonna push my hips up. I'm gonna start walking up. All right, I'm gonna start isolating these arms. Once I feel that the tops of my legs are underneath Stephanie's triceps, take one of my hands, C grip it, and I'm gonna dig for this elbow. Dig it out, use my chest if needed, all right? I'm isolating this arm even further. That's what I wanna do. So I'm here, boom. Use my head and my neck. I'm gonna bring it to the outside of Stephanie's arm. This is good. Right now I'm gonna use a gable grip. I'm staying tight, pop up a little bit, just enough so I can get my knee, I can slice my knee over. Boom, I'm here, all right? I don't wanna stay in this position for too long. I can windshield wiper my leg to the other side if needed. Now I'm here, figure 4 my arm, sprawl, and just squeeze. So without Stephanie, I'm here, boom. I'm sprawling and I'm just bringing this in. I'm literally just bringing my bicep to my forearm. I'm reducing the space between those two parts of my body. All right.
Collar choke. And this is a gi choke. If one person doesn't have, as long as one person in the group has a gi, which I think everyone, that is the case, you can use a belt to do the choke too, and I'll show that in a minute. First, we're gonna go over this. So for this choke, we're gonna really have to be careful about keeping our balance on top, because it is easy to get rolled if you're not careful on this. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lean far to one side and keep my base really far out there. That way he can't roll me that way, and he also can't really roll me the other way because all my weight is over here. My hand that's free is just gonna reach in the collar, and I wanna reach 4 fingers in and try to get my fingers to the back of his neck and grab the collar. Now I'm going to switch to my weight to the other side, and again I'm going to keep my arm far out to have a good base. Once I'm here, I'm going to base with my forehead on the mat, bring my arm back. I use my elbow against his chin to turn his head, and then I'm going to reach thumb in to his collar over top of my other hand. And again, I'm going to try to reach all the way to the back of his neck so that my index finger of my right hand can touch the pinky finger of my left hand. From here, I'm going to drop my elbows down, and I'm going to pull my elbows, and if it doesn't tap already there, I'm going to pull my elbows back towards my hips. So my hand position, 4 fingers in, thumb in, closing my hands around his collars, and I'm trying to get the inside of my wrist on one side and the outside on the other side against his neck. So I don't want to be here where I'm just shaping around his neck. I want the bony side of my wrist against his neck. And I'm just going to bring my elbows close to my body and pull them towards my hips. So we're here, keeping my base wide, 4 fingers in. If you're having trouble getting to his collar back here, you can't really get a good grip, you can just pull up and shoot your hand back. Just ragdoll him a little bit. Other side. Use my elbow to just turn his head a little to be able to find that collar. Thumb all the way towards the back of his neck. Dropping my elbows down, basing on my head, and I'm going to pull my elbows towards my hips. At this point, it is a lot easier for him to bridge me. Even if he does, just choke him from there.